Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trading the Close. It is your two most handsome members of the Verified Investing family. My name is Lawton and this is...
And I'm Drew Dosek.
And thank you for joining us. We got some action, some lack of action, and we got some earnings, Drew.
That's right. The earnings are really keeping things moving in the markets, especially today. The indices were kind of flat, and we're going to get into that over on the heat map right here.
Go for it.
Let's jump into it. All right, you see here with the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and the SPX, all pretty much were flat today, all right? So we had the Dow up 0.78, NASDAQ is basically flat, SPX up 0.62%, and then oil though, oil is down 2%. This is a key level for oil. Oil dropped yesterday, and then intraday yesterday recovered nearly almost all of what it dropped. But today, it's reversing that gain yesterday, coming back down to where it was at the lows yesterday. Should this level break, we have another 4% down before we have another support level on oil. Here's the big story of the day though, gold hitting new all-time highs. Bitcoin, pretty much flat too. As far as stocks, Google's the one that had earnings yesterday that did drop, but it did recover quite nicely throughout the day. Apple had bad news coming out of China with potential probing of their app store in China, which could potentially hurt sales for Apple. But as you see here, only down 0.5% and recovered great. All right, so let's jump into some stocks. All right, so first up, we've got the SPX. As you see here, and what I mentioned, we aren't that up much on the SPX. You see we're basically contained in this upward pattern right here. If we go a little bit higher, you can see just above 6,080, roughly 6,100, we're gonna find resistance on this lower sloping trend line. Next stop after that is gonna test the lower end of this parallel channel. Remember, I've showed this parallel channel to you for a while, so this is a significant parallel channel. Likely we're gonna come back, potentially even retest it, should the bullish sentiment remain. All right, here's another big story for indice today. And really, I guess the biggest takeaway of the day for any index is the IWM. IWM, you see over here, we've got this declining trend line, and we're finally starting to break out above it. So tomorrow, I'm gonna have it on watch to see, are we gonna make a move above the close where we closed today, or are we gonna retreat back down into the top end of this trend line? It's a significant area. You can see this is this all is just a bear flag down here on the bottom of the chart of IWM. If it does break out of this, it could be a failed move on the bear flag, which could lead to a lot of upside. So keep that on your radar when evaluating some of the smaller stocks. All right, next chart up we've got is a 10-year yield. This was a significant fall on the 10-year today. And if you remember, Lawton and I have pointed out there's a head and shoulder pattern on the 10-year chart. So you clearly see right now that we have broken this upsloping parallel channel. And then after breaking this parallel channel, where did we come? We came right into a support area on the charts that this is this yellow trend line. This one trend line dropping straight here is the target for the measured move, down at 4.263% for this head and shoulders pattern displayed right here that you see, right here. Now, should this area get beaten, if you can scroll out on the charts, Lawton, there is another area of support right at 4.1%. And you can see that area strung through right here. Right there at the 4.1%, you're gonna have support, and that trend line's not the best, but it basically is tagging these pivots right here. So should we make even further of a downward move on the 10-year, be expecting support there at 4.1%. All right, next chart up we've got is Bitcoin. Always want to touch on Bitcoin, but there's really not much to report today. We're still chopping around this area. This yellow trend line is major support. You can see we've tagged it over and over and over and over again, and it continues to bounce up. But we have this inclining parallel channel that price is contained in. The 50% area of that parallel channel is we're now trading underneath it. So Bitcoin's gonna have to push up higher right above 103,000 to get up above into that top end of that parallel channel. Then the high end can be reached. But right now we're just trading amongst this lower end. So we'll see how long that trading occurs.
Yeah, and just a quick question, Drew. Looking at this Bitcoin chart, I mean, where do you expect, I mean, it's kind of in a lull. When do you expect action to come, given the, the huge drop it had a couple days ago, where are you expecting moves to come next?
Well, Bitcoin's one of those cryptos that can take a really long time to, in essence, consolidate or coil up before another major move. So it's a good question. And with the new administration saying we're going to be the crypto capital of the world, I only anticipate crypto eventually going up. But will we hit rough patches before then is the major question, which we always have levels on the downside like this right here, this major support, 75,000. That's going to stay on my radar until it gets tagged. Will it get tagged? Unsure, but the likelihood once a breakdown occurs that level will be touched is very high. So the main thing right now is just focus on the parallel for Bitcoin, and that's really the pulse of all cryptocurrencies too.
All right, cool, Drew. I'm gonna move you along kind of quickly because we have a couple earnings to talk about. Let's talk about gold and silver real quickly.
All right, briefly. Gold though, as you see, brand new all-time highs. This inclining parallel is where the story is contained. Should we continue moving higher? $3,000 is right here on the charts. So it's just outside of that parallel. So likely what's going to happen is we're going to just have a move up, maybe even a retrace to this 50% area of the parallel, and then potentially a move back up higher, and then potentially reach that $3,000 figure.
Cool. And silver.
Silver, you see here too, breaking out. However, not at all-time highs. Now, silver has a different tie to the economy. So when the economy's roaring, silver's going to be pushing up higher too. But you notice that there's a disparity between gold and silver, and it's because of the economy. But see here at this high pivot, we're not anywhere close. We are running into lower area of resistance here. More resistance is going to be right around $33 on silver should we continue moving up.
Okay, so I know I kind of rushed you through all of that, Drew, but I'm just wondering, I mean, we had good earnings yesterday. We saw it reflected in today, and we actually have some earnings happening right now. So let's start with Netflix. I know that's something you'd wanted to talk about.
Yes, Netflix. I wanted to bring this to you today because I do a lot of reports. All of us do reports throughout the week at Verified Investing. One of which I do is about insider selling. The report that I ran yesterday, it blew me away. This is monumental stuff. We had 2 CEOs of Netflix selling roughly 90% of their shares in Netflix, and they all did so right after earnings last week. In addition, there was 3 other executives that did sell their shares. All 5 executives combined for over $380 million worth of Netflix sold. And if we look at the Netflix chart, what do we see? We see consolidation right under a resistance area. And so normally when seeing this, a consolidation under a resistance area, that's telling me price is about to break out. It's about to go higher. But why are all the executives selling all their shares? And why are they selling such a large amount of shares? So that's throwing me for a little bit of a loop, and it tells me that potentially Netflix is going to be seeing more downside once this euphoria runs out. We could even potentially see something like a bull trap. Price comes up here and then reverses back down. When price does reverse back down, the $900 area will be a great target. So if anybody is interested in starting a short, this is an ideal area, breaking out above this trend line. And if you go back on that chart, Lawton, you can see this trend line extends way, 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 way back. You can see it goes even further, all the way back. What is this? July of 2020 is the origin of that trend line. So those trend lines, and just a reminder for anybody that might have missed, these trend lines, they have more power with the longer duration trend line. So this trend line is a very, very powerful trend line. Should Netflix get through on one go, it's very unlikely. Just like we saw here, it got rejected, consolidation, and now pushing through. So with the high-end trend line, the insiders selling, that's all telling me something's up with Netflix, and it's likely to move lower in the near term.
Yeah, and something on Netflix, you're talking about potentially starting a short position. Just for our viewers out there, we always talk about managing your risk. Where's the level that you would maybe put a stop out at? If you were to short this?
Yeah, very good question. You always need to have a backup plan, okay? And so whenever you're entering a trade, you can choose the DCA method, which is a dollar cost average method. And if you're going to do something like that, break your entries up into 2 up to 4 potential entry spots, right? So if you're going to do that, you may space them out maybe 5-10% away from each other. So if this price breaks up above and confirms at like 120, 130, you potentially could add right there, and then the reversal could potentially come down and hit the top end of that trend line, still putting you in the money, and then you can take your profits off then. And now notice this vertical move though, Lawton, in the consolidation, this also is potentially a bull flag pattern. You can get measured moves from that too. So I would target the measured move up towards the top as one of my last entries, and should price break above that measured move, then I'd go ahead and cut it.
Stop out. Okay, yep. Cool. All right, Google. I mean, Google had earnings yesterday. Talk to me about it. They got smoked.
Yeah, Google did get smoked. You can see here in the chart, we were pushing up above this trend line of resistance and this wedge pattern that's moving at an upward angle. When price did push up above, earnings took place, and then boom, we dropped all the way, not into this wedge again, but all the way back down beneath it. So severe downside for Google today. However, it did catch support right here at the 188 level. So Google still is saved. If you look back on the chart and look at all of this consolidation pattern, and then particularly this green candle right here, this right here is where price is going to be contained. And so Google so far is saved. It still has an opportunity to move back up, hit this lower end of the trend line. But I want to point out this right here at the top of the chart. We had 3 topping tails on the chart of Google. It was all telling us that price likely was going to be moving down in the near term. We had a fake out right here, basically a bull trap, and then boom, right down underneath that wedge, mainly because we were seeing this on the charts. This technical stuff is amazing. It gives you great insight as to where price action is going to go.
All right, I'm sorry to cut you off, Drew. Let's go to Qualcomm. I mean, what's going on with Qualcomm? Talk to me. They have earnings.
They have earnings now.
Yeah, now.
They basically have earnings now. So we wanted to bring you guys a taste of something with earnings. And also at Verified Investing, we have the earnings trader going on right now. These guys are trading these earnings live. It's really fun, very fast, action-packed. So make sure to check it out if you want to get into that live action day trading with earnings. But you see here, I've got a few different levels, and that's what you got to do going into earnings. Earnings are wild cards. They're like coin flips. So you don't necessarily know exactly which way the direction of the report's going to take the stock. So what I've done right here, I've got levels below, and I got levels on top. This inclining trend line right here is only about 3 to 4%, and usually on a move after hours, especially with a stock like Qualcomm in the tech sector, you're going to be moving a little bit more, particularly if you have good and or bad earnings, roughly 10 to 15%. So this area would be more or less of a minor support, and then down here and support at 150. This one declining trend line roughly around 160, then 150 if it moves lower, but we see price action starting to move up. So the first area of resistance I would be interested in if I was day trading this was going to be up here around 190, then second one at 200, and a pierce of 200 to add.
Cool. All right. And that's really cool, guys. You can check out the earnings trader. It's now part of Smart Money stocks and ETFs. So not only do you get swing trades, you also get the added bonus of getting the ability to trade earnings live. I want to talk to you a little bit really quickly about some earnings happening tomorrow morning, like Eli Lilly, Roblox. Like, what do you think about those? Like, what's the movement?
You know, that's a good question. Just I'll revert back to what I said before. They're all coin flips. You know, we can look at this. We can look at this chart and see this movement up and consolidation. This consolidation in a bull flag pattern told me that price was likely to go up. But again, that's just probabilities, right? So even if I have the most bullish setup right here, the earnings could disappoint or guidance could disappoint. So evaluating the stocks, and I'd have to look at each one of them to see if we had patterns to say the likelihood's gonna go up, but that likelihood's only a small margin. So say normally a coin flip, 50-50. Once we have a bull flag pattern, it may increase the odds to 55%, maybe even 60%. So it's still very close to a coin flip on earnings.
I mean, yeah, earnings, even if there's a bull flag, bear flag, whatever it is, even if the setup is perfect, it looks like this is going to rip. If they come out and say they have awful earnings, doesn't care what the chart says. Yeah. It's just going to tank. Yep. With that being said, come over here and we'll close out. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on Trading the Close. Again, my name is Lawton Ho, and this is...
I'm Drew Dosek.
And we hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
See you later.